and welcome to another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm your host, Shay Wheat, founder of Grace and Ease Productions. And today I'm excited to chat with our guest because this woman, she's been all over the place. She speaks in like 4 different countries, and she's just a pretty cool chick to get to know. And we're going to talk about money. And who doesn't love to talk about money, right? So I would like to introduce you to Aasha T, who is a ISEI certified facilitator, coach, and mentor. She is the founder of BeyondEQ International, and she works with high achieving teams and individuals, as well as women in their emotional health, feminine, and sexual energy to stop burnout, which is a big thing, right? Like I mentioned earlier, she's lived on 3 different countries, spoken in 4, making her really an expert on perspective taking, communication and empathy, as well as being the author of, get this, I love the title of this book, The Empath is the Narcissist, which is a book about trauma bonding and the dangers of push-pull dynamics in the world. Her mission really is to stop trauma and heal the planet one person at a time. So please help me welcome her to the Creating Powerful Impact stage. What's going on? How are you?
Oh my gosh, Shay, thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you. And yeah, much gratitude to everybody who's listening.
Yes, I'm excited because there's so many ways and things that we can talk about today. I know we were wanting to talk about emotional intelligence and, money. And I mean, you're super successful in your business. So, I also want to know a little behind the scenes of how you move from, multiple 6 into 7 figures, because that alone is going to take some emotional intelligence. And I'm sure you have some stories there as well. But to start us off, I would love to hear a little bit about, like, what is emotional intelligence and how is it that, or why should people even be thinking about it and considering it in the first place?
Oh, I love this question. Yes. So there is one link. This is really going to resonate for entrepreneurs and leaders, even team members of executive teams. The one link between the most self-made millionaires in the world is emotional regulation. 90% of all self-made millionaires tested through the SOEP, which is I think they're out of Germany, a very reputable place that gathers statistics. 90% of self-made millionaires have one link, and it is emotional regulation. Emotional intelligence is the key foundation for everything in life. It is the balancing of the right and the left hemisphere of the brain, which is your creative and your analytical. And it clears trauma, but in a really safe, awesome, approachable way. And it has changed my life. I have been able to realize that as long as you feel safe inside your body, external events don't affect it as much. And I've been blessed to have extreme situations in the last 2.5 years of my business to show me that over and over again. So lots of rupture, if you will, to see how I would maintain my own regulation and still manage to run my business and show a lot of love to those in my life.
Yeah, gosh, business, isn't it such like a great mirror and opportunity to continue to grow, and personal development and business development all together in one? It's like, really, I don't know, normal regular school just doesn't teach you as much as when you're a business owner.
That's it. I always say, if you want a spiritual adventure, become an entrepreneur. There's no hiding. You have to embody what it is that you teach, which is why, one of my long-term goals is to get emotional, even short-term goals, I'd say probably the next 3 to 5 years, into healthcare. Emotional intelligence and emotional regulation and energy work should be in all healthcare facilities, because it is like a different paradigm. So you might go to a psychologist and talk it out, or even a mindset coach that hasn't really done the really deeper work. And then you don't really get the results. And so usually people come to me after like a couple of years of going to therapy and they're like, it's still not working. And then we do my program in 8 weeks. And yeah, it's just a totally different ball game. It's amazing. So yeah, you have to embody what you say you're teaching. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I picked like every modality under the human race. And so it's awesome because I guess my goal is to help heal humanity. So I'm here for the ride. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's so funny because I come from the world of events, right? We produce events and a lot of my hosts will go through something leading into the event. And it's because that's what they then have to talk about and teach during the event, right? It's getting them ready to support the audience who's showing up because that's what's most present for them, right? So it's like, thank you for the opportunity and here we go, right?
It's so true. I'll tell you, Shay, like some of my days, like I work with teens and then I'll be on the phone with a corporate and then I'm on the phone with somebody about sexual transmutation, which is, popularized by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. And I'm working with a man about that. And then a man who's talking to me about business consulting and then a child. And so it's like, wow, it's kind of not in the box. It's just all about the energy.
All about the energy. Yeah. So, okay. So maybe somebody is listening right now and they're like, okay, I kind of get it, but I'm not totally clear. What does this mean? How is this showing up? What is it affecting in my world? So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I need to know more information about it. For that person that's listening, what would you say? What would you have them like point them to?
Awesome. I love that. Great question. So the first thing I want to make clear is 95% of people believe they have really high emotional intelligence. It's like something people are like, oh no, I've got high EQ. I give a frequency test that determines that it doesn't matter where you always have something that you can go higher with. And so I separate it into the 3 buckets of life. And so you can look at your life and say, where am I in these buckets? A lot of entrepreneurs dump their entire life into their mission, and then they're lacking love at home or intimacy or not even a relationship. Like they feel like they need to sacrifice that bucket, or they're all in on the relationship and maybe a little codependent on their partner who's really attached to his job or her job, and they've given up themselves. And then the last bucket is health. What are you choosing to put into your body? What are you looking like in the way that you show up? And what kinds of, I call them high vibe decisions or lower vibe decisions. So if we look at the 3 buckets of life, EQ gives you the capacity to hold all 3 buckets full, overflowing, self-worth, you're nurturing, your masculine and feminine energy are balanced. And it's not always 50-50, but it is the ability to understand that you can have it all. You don't have to sacrifice any of those 3 things, and you're safe to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. So if one of their buckets is like lopsided or totally turned upside down, that would be worth taking the quiz for and understanding like, what is that? Where is it showing up, and what could be my next best steps?
100%. So you want to really be like, really what ends up happening is, for example, a lot of entrepreneurs and high achievers, they go so deep into their mission that there's usually a lot of rupture or lack of intimacy and connection in conscious relating at home. And so we'll work on that, usually is the case, but it depends on the leader, on the person that I work with. And that's another thing too, Shay, is there's a lot of hurt on this planet. So a lot of people have their heart broken, and it doesn't matter who you are or how much money you make. You can't escape heartbreak. And in that right there affects everything. So if you're still holding on to heartbreak, it will affect your business. It will affect how much money comes into your business. It will affect finding a partner that you love later in life, which also affects your business. So and also if you work in corporate, same situation. So I work with people on that as well. EQ does all that.
Yeah. And so I think I've heard it before that, it's trauma affecting your business and your relationships. But I mean, hurt is trauma, right? It's a form of trauma. It doesn't have to be like this big, huge thing, life altering, fell on the floor, writhing around. It could be heartbreak and other forms of trauma, correct?
Oh, yeah. So I love what you shared, because even if you're with someone for 7 years and like, let's say that person has like a trigger response when you make a lot of noise in the kitchen. And
Yeah.
every time you make noise in the kitchen, they go, stop making so much noise. If they're saying that every week for 7 years, it becomes what we call a story in your head. It gets imprinted in your head. And then because I work in emotional intelligence and energy, when I give them the test, I can see where the story is in the test. And I'm like, oh, it's like a dip in their frequency. And so they may then over time develop PTSD, which is simply like, so if they leave that relationship and then get in another relationship, they may making noise in the kitchen and their new partner doesn't say anything because she's like nicely reading a book. And the person in the kitchen might actually start to feel afraid and want to protect themselves. So we're constantly protecting our heart and protecting our brain from trauma, fear, fight, flight, or freeze.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, so you've mentioned the quiz a couple of times. Is the quiz like in person with you, or is it like an online quiz, or how does that work?
Yeah, so actually we're going to drop a link for the free EQ training, and it's going to it's a 30-minute training. It's awesome. I definitely recommend watching the whole thing. And it shows you everything that we're talking about. It's essentially like like one of those graphs at the hospital, like where they flatline. It looks like
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. It looks like that. And there's 26 areas of emotional intelligence. They include integrity, adaptability, behavioral self-control, self-awareness, empathy, so many more. And so we look and see where they're dipping. And then the dips, I go in and use my method to bring the dips up. And then the results are always the same. More money, better relationships, or the courage to leave the relationship you're in. And then you just get a side effect of hotter and a lot of weight loss. It's like it's like the blink.
That doesn't suck.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty much all my clients have gotten a glow up. I call it.
Oh my
You vibe higher. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize that when you work on the EQ and the emotional side, it could be physically showing up in your body as weight. And when you go and you work on that piece, then the weight's no longer serving you. So it releases, right?
100%. Like I would even say at least 50% of the weight that the current population is holding is emotional. So we've, if you will, like if you want to go down sort of the rabbit hole of like the depths of the consciousness of the collective, a lot of people are being sort of gridlocked onto these lower timelines, as I call them. And there's a lot of sweatpants and there's a lot of plugging into social media and not a lot of gym going and a ton of food with additives in it. So when you start to kind of wake up with EQ, you're raising your vibe, right? So you almost visualize like a ladder, you're stepping up the ladder. And then when you step on one ladder rung, there's a bunch of splinters on it because it hurts and you're going to cry it out. And you're like, oh, my father wound, he never loved my father. And then you go up the next ladder rung and then the next one and then another splinter. And you're like, that girl that rejected me in year 6 or whatever. And then up the ladder again and up the ladder again. And every time you go up the ladder, you essentially graduate and you never experience that pain again. So that's what this work does. And then when you get to the top, you're like, oh, and
Yeah.
and it's like, the closer connection to the source of the universe, the divine, God, goddess, whatever you call it in the practice, doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Okay. So yeah, we'll definitely have the link to that business EQ training and quiz in the show notes. So definitely make sure that you pick that piece up. I want to touch a little bit about like you said, when you start working on the stuff, everything else kind of shows up in a higher vibration. So successful business that you have, going from 5 figures to 6 figures to multiple 6 into 7. Mm-hmm. I would love if you would like peel back that curtain a little bit and tell us what it took for you to continue to raise your vibration, what showed up for you, what was not so great and amazing to make it so you're then moved into that next level for you and your business and how you serve your audience. Could you share a little bit about that? And then obviously, you know, how the money shows up.
Yes, I love these questions. So this is a really great question. So we are also going to include that ebook, which is called Emotional Intelligence Creates Unicorns, which includes a lot of my crazy story. So my business is only 2.5 years old. In the first year and a half, I created about $600,000 in my business. And this was while I was going through a terrible divorce. I changed my name. My son and I got in a really awful car accident. We had to move into my parents' basement. I then was sexually assaulted twice in the first year and a half of my business. And then this is where it gets crazy. And then I was like building the business and like, okay, we're getting momentum. And I met a man, an amazing man, and he believed in me so much. He became a really fast friend. And he said he was going to get us funding so that we could start taking it even further. And he's like, I'm going to go get you $500,000. I'm meeting with a man today. And on the way to meet with the man, he passed away. He had a heart attack. Yes. And so all of this, and this was in December. Now, meanwhile, I'm building my business. I've got $500,000 coming. We're making $60,000 a month, $50,000 a month. We're getting into corporate. He passed away. I overextended. So from December to January, February, March, there were days and weeks that I had like $4 in my bank account. I had hired 3 staff. But because of this work and the method that I use, which involves emotional, I do energy work, I've been able to just like, I don't even think about it. I just keep going, keep going. There's no stress. There's no feelings of fear. I mean, I won't say none because that's unrealistic, but when the feeling comes up, I honor the feeling and I deeply move the energy through my body. That's all an emotion is. So I cry it out. I get it. I trust my body enough to give me the emotion that I'm supposed to be having. And then what happens is I begin to line up faster and faster and faster. And next thing you know, you're back to 10K days. So wow. That's how it works. And all my clients experience the same thing because the 8-week program that I use, we just align them much faster through their own unique pace and the energy work. And it drops time, but it does it in a way that's like really honoring like their own unique pace. Like it doesn't feel fast. It just feels safe, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Like
cool.
It's supposed to be that way. Like that's the normal, right? Like it feels like home.
Yeah. Like, well, if you were to go work with a coach that doesn't do energy work, you're going to be talking about it. So it will affect you. But when you do energy work, it moves it much faster. Just moves it faster because we have chakras in our body. And so we hold emotions. And so with my work, I am able to like clean them out. But I'm like the non-woo-woo energy lady. It's really funny. I'm like the business energy lady. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And yeah, it just makes so much sense because I'm like, oh, business needs energy. Business is an energy.
It is its own energy. It's its own, just like with events, like events become their own living, breathing entities, right? Because it shows who's showing up and who's there and what's happening in the space right now. It takes on its own life. So no matter how many times you do the same event, they're never the same.
I love that.
So it's all energy, right? Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. So that's the link for the ebook, The Emotional Intelligence Creates Unicorns. So click on that link in the show notes to dive into that piece. I'm super excited about that one as well. And then
you just shared about it being a different, its own energy. It's just, it's so true. So true.
Yeah. I know we could probably like go on that tangent alone for a little while. Oh, beautiful. Okay. And then, well, we've got one more link. We might as well talk about that. Can you share a little bit about, women, because you do have a subset where you work with just women and burnout. Yes. Can you talk to us a little bit about like burnout and what it's doing for high achieving women and, how you best support them?
Oh, yes. And so this is actually relevant, Shay, for not only the women in the audience, but for the men in the audience who may be married and entrepreneurs, and their wives are, let's say, a little controlling, or maybe withholding intimacy, or there's a lack of connection between you and your wife. This will be relevant for her as well, because the feminine frequency, when a feminine woman has her heart, doesn't matter if she's straight or gay, it doesn't, we're not talking about that. We're talking about energetics. When the feminine is open to receiving, that is when money begins to flow easily. As a matter of fact, every single billionaire talks about this. Elon Musk is quoted talking about this, Kanye West, Nikola Tesla, and it's called the energy of the muse. And so when you have muse energy around you, it's going to amplify your money. That's like, this is not like new information. It's been around. Napoleon Hill talks about it in Sexual Transmutation as well. The love of a woman is the most powerful force on the planet. That is why there are so many women that are overworking, anxious, concerned about where their next dollar is coming in. And I was this woman in my first marriage. That's how I ended up divorced. And so many women are under this sort of like heart closed spell. And the result is burnout over time and like lack of purpose. And so the video that I shared is all about how you open your heart. I use this 3-step method that I talk about in the video. It runs about 30 minutes, and how you can actually start to open your heart and feel better when you're creating. And it's just a beautiful thing. And it's just like my favorite thing ever. It changed my entire world. So yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. So that is also a link in the show notes. The 3 steps for high achieving women experiencing burnout. Definitely take a look at that link as well.
And for the men as well who have wives that I just described, send them on over, because I do a free call at the end of the video, so they can come and do a free unique blueprint with me as well, where I can take them, just support them if anybody needs support.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's amazing. So you've just poured into us. Is there any other, like, are you on social? If they just want to like see what it is that you're up to, or your events or anything that's coming up, do they just head to your website? And if so, what is that?
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm on Instagram at Aasha, AASHA _T _international. And then I'm also on LinkedIn for like more business vibes. And that is Aasha LaCount. My Instagram is more trauma and relating, and like a little bit of business, but it's mostly trauma and relating. And then I'm also on Facebook. I have a really big audience on Facebook, Aasha T. That's it, Aasha T. And you can't miss me. It's all about like BeyondEQ, and it's awesome.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so definitely make sure that you check out all of the resources that we have linked in the show notes. Sadly, we've got to start wrapping up. And I would love for you to share with our audience, what is a takeaway or a memorable note that you would like to leave them with today?
Yes, I would love to just say energy. When people say that energy is everything, and people say it all the time to me, oh, energy is everything, they don't really understand what that means. Most people don't. Energy is your trauma. It is the rate at which you're vibing. So if we go back to the latter discussion about how high you're going. So when you think about your emotions, just think of them as something that you feel in the moment, so that you can get to a higher vibe. And that right there is how you release the stories. And you can do that naturally by crying a lot, or like getting angry, and really giving yourself permission to do that. Or you can move it a little faster with some energy work. So it's not woo-woo at all. Get the woo-woo or the spiritual out of it. It's not true. It's a complete lie, because I just don't think people want us to know how powerful we really are.
That right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I greatly appreciate all that you've poured into us and the diamonds that you've been dropping. So helpful. And I want to thank our audience for joining us on another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm really excited for you just to take all the lessons, all the resources that she shared here today, start implementing them so that you can create even more impact in your world. So until next time, have an outstanding rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening to the Creating Powerful Impact podcast. If you are a successful coach, speaker, author, or thought leader who would like to be on this program, simply visit creatingpowerfulimpact.com/guest. If you are someone who got something out of this interview, would you please do me a favor and share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on your socials. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Creating Powerful Impact. I love seeing all of your posts and great guest selections. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and they really mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more about us? Head on over to our website, graceandeaseproductions.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Grace and Ease Productions on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.